guys, welcome back to the Distinction Factory where we make our mark. And today we are going to be looking at grade 10 trigonometry and specifically the 2D trig part of things. So down here I have our 3 simple steps to follow in order to solve a 2D trig problem. The first step talks about what is it that they actually want from us? What do they want us to solve for? Step 2 says that we need to isolate and label the triangle. Isolating the triangle is not a necessary step, but it does make it easier for us when we're starting off with 2D trig questions to identify what we have and not mix it up with other givens. Then it says that we also need to make a list of the givens that we have. So once we label the triangle, we can list those things down. And step 3 says that we need to identify the trig ratio that we're going to use, write the equation, sub, and solve. I consider those 3 things part of one step because they go hand in hand with each other. So the question says in the diagram below, a person is standing at point A, which is down here, and that is 30 meters away from point B, which is over here. They then say that points A and B are on the same horizontal plane, and the angle of elevation of the first story window at point C from point A is 15 degrees. So what that means is here's our story 1 window, and that has an angle of elevation of 15 degrees. Then it says that the angle of elevation of the second story window at point D, which is up here, from point A is 21 degrees. So this angle here is 21 degrees. And we've got our right angle by B. They say that we need to determine the distance between the 2 windows. So let's go through step 1. What is it that they want from us? Yes, it's the distance between 2 windows, but where exactly in relation to the letters are those windows? So if you remember, they did mention that the first story window is here at point C, and the second story window is here at point D. So they want the distance between C and D. Now, how can we go about doing that? Remember that trig can only be done in right angle triangles. So I cannot use triangle ACD to try and solve for CD straight ahead like that because there is no 90 degree in that triangle. So I'm limited to 2 options. I'm limited to triangle ABC and triangle ABD. And what we can do from here is we can determine the distance of BD, which is the full length of that side. And then we can determine the distance of BC. So to calculate the distance of BD, we will be using this bigger triangle here. And to calculate the distance of BC, we'll be using the smaller triangle over here. And once we have those 2 lengths, the difference between them, so when I subtract their lengths, I will get the distance of CD. And that's basically the process that we're going to follow. And now we can move on to step 2. Step 2 says isolate and label the triangle and make a list of the givens that we have. So let's first start by working out the length of BD. Alright, so now that I've isolated triangle ABD, which we are using to get the length of BD, now we can start to label and make a list of the givens. So we're going to label according to angle 21 degrees, and we start off by labeling the hypotenuse, which is always going to be directly opposite the 90 degrees. Then we have the opposite side of 21, and we have the adjacent side, which is the only leftover side. Making a list of the givens, the things that we have is adjacent, and our adjacent is listed as AB, which is 30 meters. We want our opposite, and the opposite is listed as BD. And we are given the angle, which is theta, and that is 21 degrees. Now, based off these givens, I can decide which trig ratio I can use as long as they include both of these lines that we have listed here. So I want something that has opposite and adjacent in it, so I will be using tan. So I'll write out my equation that tan of theta is equal to the opposite side, which is BD, over my adjacent side, which is AB. And from there, I can substitute and solve, which is now step 3. So substitution, we've got tan of 21 is equal to BD, which is what we are solving for, over AB, which is 30. And from there, we can solve for BD by taking the 30 across the equals to sign. Because it is your divisor on the right-hand side, when I yeet him across, he becomes multiplication. So we have 30 times by tan 21. And we can now just put this straight into our calculator and get our answer. All right, so that gave me 11.52 meters. Now I can go ahead and calculate the next part of my equation. So I have just solved for BD. I need to now solve for BC. So if I'm solving for BC, I will have to use triangle ABC in order to calculate that. So I will isolate that triangle here for us on the side. And now we can label this triangle according to the angle. So our hypotenuse is opposite the 90 degrees, our opposite is opposite the 15, and adjacent is our leftover side. From here, we're going to make a list of our givens, and we have our adjacent side, which is 30 meters. We have our opposite, which is actually what we want to find out. This is BC, and our adjacent was AB. And then we can solve, or rather we have theta, which is now 15 degrees instead of 21. Based off this, we can decide which trig ratio, and again, it's going to be tan. So I'll go ahead and write out my equation. I have tan of theta is equal to my opposite, which is BC. And that is over my adjacent, which is AB. And then I can substitute and solve. So this is again step 3 that we're on now. Tan 15 of BC, which is what we want, over our 30 meters that we had for AB. And then because we're solving for the numerator, I can take the 30, yeet him across, and he becomes multiplication on the other side. So 30 times tan of 15 gives us BC. And that means that BC will equal to 30 times tan of 15, 8.04 meters. All right, but we are not yet done, because remember that they actually wanted us to get the length of CD. So now all I have to do is take these two values and minus them from each other. So we've got CD is equal to the length of BD, which is 11.52. And we are minusing the 8.04 from this. And that answer will be our final. We end up with 3.48 meters being the length of CD. I hope this helps you guys, and you can catch us in our next video. Thank you very much.